Okay, thank you, Gaia. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this morning. And what are we going to be talking about today? AI strategies for teacher well-being. And this is the specific topic that I want to unpack with everybody. And I can see that everyone's committed this morning to invest some time into their well-being and see how AI tools can really help us in terms of not leading us to burnout and really streamlining our workflow and contributing to our happiness overall. So we're going to be having a look at amplifying your particular strengths and ease stress with AI solutions. And a little bit later, we are going to explore some of the AI tools, but I thought, let me just introduce myself first. Okay, so who am I? If I haven't met you before, I'm actually based in Hong Kong. And I've lived here for over 35 years now. I'm actually up to my 35th year. And I teach at the University of Hong Kong on the master's program. And a lot of my students from all over the place. That's a picture of just last year's cohort. And my master's and my doctorate is actually in educational technology. So my first love and passion was mathematics, but I've really grown to learn more and be passionate about educational technology. And AI tools is just under that umbrella term of educational technology. And how can we use AI tools to enhance learning and to also contribute to our well-being? And I love to eat dumplings. If you know me, I have the fortunate pleasure of eating different types of dumplings around the world. And I know in India you have a version of a dumpling. Please put in the chat what your version of the dumpling is. In, in Italy, it's the ravioli. In Nepal, it's the momo. In Spain, I was just there last week, it's the empanada. So let me just have a look at the chat box. What is it? Yes, momos, great. Empanada, samosa, exactly. So every single culture has their own version of a dumpling, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so I wanted to share, first of all, something that makes my heart sing. So I hope that the sound is on. And in Hong Kong, I'm able to connect with nature and walk up the peak whenever I'm in town. So I'm just going to play this little video. This was a few months ago when I was walking up the peak with my friend.
Look at this, going to mummy. Here's another one, looking for mummy. Look. Yeah. This is like so cute.
Who would know this about Hong Kong?
Oh, exactly. Look at this. They're climbers.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to showcase some of the beautiful nature and flora and fauna that we actually have in Hong Kong. Many people think it's an urban city with, lots of bustling traffic, but we actually have a lot of nature. And I think we all realize the importance of connecting with nature because a lot of research has actually shown that connecting with nature regularly can give us both mental and physical well-being benefits. And actually, research suggests that if we connect with nature at least 120 minutes per week, we can, this is associated with improved health, well-being, regardless, however, we connect with nature. So I'm going to encourage everyone to try and take some time out in your really busy weeks as teachers to connect with nature for around 2 hours per week. All right, so that's something that makes my heart sing and a reminder of how important nature is. The other thing that I wanted to discuss was the importance of being the light that helps others shine. And as teachers, I think we have this natural instinct to want to be able to help other people. And so for this session today, I'd like you to think of one person that you would like to support in terms of their well-being. So think of who that person is, and can you write their name down? So that we're setting an intention for this particular time that we're together. And as a yoga teacher, it was always very important that for every practice, we set an intention for our practice. And then I'd really like to invite you to bring that person to learning today and see after the session today how you can help them. What are some strategies that you can help and support that person? Okay, so you have that person written down, keeping them in mind. it's also important for us to practice being grateful. So studies indicate that daily feelings of gratitude are positively related to well-being. And so we're going to practice some gratitude before we start our time together and unpack some AI tools. I've got a little Mentimeter here. So you can either pick up the QR code with your phone, or I think Gaia and Rashi, they can also drop in the link to a Padlet wall, which will have some resources. And on the Padlet wall, you'll have a link to this Mentimeter. So please share. I'd love to know, what are you grateful for?
For those of you who are looking, the link to the Padlet is in the chat. So please click on that if you'd like to do this on your screens.
Wow, look at this. We've already got some wonderful responses. Being alive. Isn't it wonderful just to be alive? I love that. My family, pets who bring a lot of joy, right? Pets always bring us a lot of love and joy. Nature, that's lovely to see. My colleagues, isn't it wonderful that we can actually be grateful for the people, our colleagues that we work with, because we can share ideas and collaborate. Supportive family, my health, I think that's pretty important. And I'm going to be talking about health as well first and putting our health first. Family, food, being alive, sunshine is really important too. So when you connect with nature, I hope that everyone has the opportunity to bask in sunshine regularly, because that helps really regulate our melatonin levels as well. Being a teacher, I think it's such an honor and a privilege to be a teacher. We get to be in the classroom and really influence, young minds and really help them develop into these wonderful, positive contributors to society. So it's such an honor and a privilege being a teacher. Okay, so thank you for sharing your ideas. And we always start off any practice, any session with what you're grateful for. Okay, so I want to stress that self-care is not selfish. And when we travel on planes, and there's always that announcement, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you actually put the oxygen mask on anyone else, because you can't help other people if you don't actually look after yourself first. So I really want to stress this idea. Self-care is not selfish, but you're going to be able to be a better educator, a better family member. You can be your best version of your best self if you look after yourself first. Okay, so if you do have questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. And Guy and Rashi, if there's anything really interesting, please just stop me and let's just, we can unpack those questions. But I thought, let's first of all discuss why teachers will never be replaced by AI. I know this is a fear, because I've heard it with a lot of groups that I've been collaborating with around the world. And we will never be replaced by AI agents or bots because of the relationships and the human qualities that we bring. And I'm going to show a little bit of research here. So research suggests that AI enhances education, but it actually can't replace us, which I think is really promising. Their unique role, AI's unique role in developing empathy, cultural understanding, and critical thinking remains essential. And AI should complement, not substitute us as teachers. The human element in teaching is essential for creating a supportive and engaging learning environment. So I never fear that we will be replaced by AI, but it really can augment our workflow, contribute to our well-being, and really support students' learning at the same time. So today's session is going to be framed around two guiding questions. The first part will be about how might we identify and implement strategies to support our well-being. So I'm going to discuss generally the importance and the different factors of well-being. And then secondly, most of the session I imagine will be about how might we leverage AI to reduce stress and encourage a work-life balance. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the pillars and the factors that contribute to our well-being so that we can actually have some influence So the SPICE model for wellbeing was something I developed for Oxford University Press. I have a wellbeing course for them. And what does SPICE, these 5 pillars, stand for? S stands for social and the importance of having meaningful connections with other people. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the longitudinal study from Harvard that studied happiness. And they actually tracked freshmen, Harvard scholars from the 30s over decades and decades. And they found that the secret to happiness and also to well-being was actually that these people had really meaningful connections with other people. So social is really important. And we're lucky that as teachers, we're actually always in a social environment, whether that's with our colleagues or with our students. Next is physical. And of course, movement's really important, but I actually include quality sleep. I know teachers work till all sorts of hours in the evening because of the workload. And I'm hoping that today we'll be able to introduce some strategies using AI so that you can actually focus on your quality sleep, and at least 7 to 8 hours is the recommended for the average person. Now, I'm not the average person. I actually need about 9 to 10 hours. But, everyone is slightly different, and a minimum of 7 to 8 hours sleep. So the physical pillar that contributes to your well-being. Ingestive. Now, I say ingestive because that could include vitamins and minerals that perhaps you might not get from all of your food. So sometimes, we try to have the ideal diet and food and nutrition, but if we don't, then we may need to supplement vitamins and minerals. So anything ingestive. Cognitive. So this includes intellectual well-being and the ability to evolve and be lifelong learners. And I know that as teachers, I think we all have this thirst for knowledge and to learn. And we need to be cognitively stimulated so that we have a sense of purpose, and that contributes to our well-being. And what is E? E is emotional. So this includes metacognitive well-being and the ability to self-regulate and self-monitor emotions and feelings so that we're aware of our behavior and the impact that that has on other people. So that emotional well-being. So these 5 pillars are really important that contribute to our overall well-being: social, physical, ingestive, cognitive, and emotional. Now I have a little Mentimeter here because I'd love to see the thinking. Reflect on which area is your strength. It should be the same link, hopefully. Let's see. Please reflect. Which is your strength? Is it social, physical, ingestive, cognitive, or emotional? And let me know if it's working. I've got lots of thumbs up coming. I can see floating. Let me go back and then see if it will adjust.
I think we can all put our responses in the chat. And I think, Jan, you need to change your slide permissions.
Oh, I see.
It hasn't moved on to the next question.
Oh, okay. All right. So what I'm going to do then is, okay, when technology gremlins come and visit, we can always navigate around them. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and then I'm going to share the actual, let's see. I think we'll come back to it. How about we come back to it? Yeah. Okay, we come back to it. Please put it in the chat, and I'd love to see.
So we're seeing a lot of emotional, social, and cognitive in the chat.
Okay.
I see a lot of social and emotional that's standing out to me.
Okay, interesting. And that I think tells us a lot, because as teachers, we are social and we do have great metacognitive awareness as teachers, because we have to constantly read our students' emotions and see where they are in terms of their learning practice. So let me just get that back up. Okay, so the next question then, was, I don't know if this is going to work, let's see, was, well, which area would you like to develop more? So let me try and start let's see if this one works. Social, physical, ingestive, cognitive, and emotional. Oh, this one's working. See those technology gremlins? They just like sometimes visit, sometimes don't. Like, they didn't want to visit in that last one. Okay,
I'm
so
waiting for someone to say ingestive. Oh,
yeah,
fine.
okay, that's interesting. It's physical, right? It's physical and perhaps cognitive is a close second at the moment as well, but more physical. I wonder if that's sleep. If it is sleep, can you put that in the chat box so that we know? Because I know teachers lack sleep, and we have to actually honor that time when we're asleep, because that's when we regenerate ourselves, when our brains regenerate. And it's also, okay, cognitive is taken over now. And that lifelong learning and trying to keep up with the AI tools, because it can be overwhelming. I think I've heard from so many educators, how do you keep up with everything? Okay, so thank you for that. I'm so glad that one worked. So before we start unpacking the tools, I just want to talk about some pedagogical practices to keep in mind when we're using any AI tool. Because the question I want to pose is it about doing the same things better or faster? Or is it about doing better things with our students and transforming education and learning? And Peter Drucker said there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. So here are some mistakes that I've seen when it comes to AI use. So I'm going to propose that we don't use AI to generate inane worksheets. We don't want to encourage drill and kill 100 questions and bore our students to death. We also don't want to be using AI to generate standardized tests or those mini quizzes, because I think it's important that we collect qualitative data and evidence of student learning, because it gives us a better picture of where they are and where they need to go. I don't think we should be using AI to work out answers to math. We want students to actually go through productive struggle in every single subject area. And I just shared something this morning on LinkedIn about a study that actually talks about the importance of enforcing and using productive struggle with AI tools. So not using AI tools to get answers, okay? Another mistake is using AI as a tutor in class, because in the classroom, we want that social aspect, the social constructivism approach, where students are talking and sharing ideas. And we don't want to use AI to continue to deliver long, boring lectures where we're standing in the front of the room for an hour using the transmission method. And the last mistake I'm going to talk about is we don't want to use AI to create teacher-centered lessons, because we should be focusing on student-centered lessons, right? Where students are directing the learning and they are at the center of the learning process. So I'm going to talk about just a little analogy. First is, and I've shared this in my talks before, so imagine if you invited a builder to your house to come and fix your roof, and they inadvertently just lodged this huge hole in your roof. Do you blame the hammer that he used, or do you blame the builder? So of course, it's about how we use the tool, not the AI tool that is actually inanimate. So it's not about the AI tool you use, it's about how you use the tool. And so I want to stress it's always about the pedagogy before technology. So are we encouraging inquiry-based learning with the AI tools? Are we focusing on deep conceptual understanding? Okay, and then I think some of you have met Pedaguchi before. I've decided to introduce you again to Pedaguchi. Pedaguchi is a non-gender specific, non-binary, inclusive companion that embraces all religions, all cultures, all languages, and is here to remind us that we use AI to empower us to focus on the pedagogy, and to always keep the human in the loop. So always focusing on the pedagogy. All right, so a little few more studies. AI tools have shown promise in alleviating our workflow and preventing burnout. And also large language models can assist teachers in lesson planning. So I'm sure you're using AI tools for that already. Content development, we're going to see some examples. And also, and these are all significant contributors to burnout, basically. Okay, so let's hear a conversation between two amazing educators about how they use AI and how then that helps to free up time so that they can focus on building relationships with students and talking to students in the classroom.
We've been on this journey of co-teaching now for over 2 years. And one of the tools that we often use for co-planning is AI. We use it as a thought partner, really.
Sure, for sure.
And it's really helped us focus on what matters, which is spending time with the students and being more efficient with our planning.
Of course, as teachers, we're busy and we have little planning time, really. So it's so important that it's done efficiently, and that's where, for sure, having AI tools makes the planning part more fun for me, because you can be more creative, for sure. It saves time and definitely adds to my well-being, you know. So as you mentioned, that if you have all these tasks that you got to do, it definitely helps that not to feel so overwhelmed that I've got so much to do, but use it in an efficient way, AI tools.
And those scaffolds that you've produced at different levels, that differentiated scaffold production is way faster.
Absolutely, for sure. So, I mean, as you know, we're currently working on persuasive writing, and for our little, I mean, this is just one example of a scaffold with sentence starters, but then remember how we took these sentence starters and put them into AI to then come up with leveled mentor text. And again, that's something that would take me quite a lot of time, but having the AI tool just to come up with leveled mentor text saves so much time.
Right, and even the way we use it has changed so much as we got better at being specific with the prompt and the tone, and then the output would be much better and easier for us to apply right away.
And also sharing, you know, our discoveries, sharing the tools that we've learned, you know, I've done it this way, what about adding this? So it always adds to, for me, a lot of learning moving forward.
That's interesting, because also the atmosphere that AI, the AI use has created, whereas at the beginning it was a bit scary to some of our team members and to us, it became a tool that was more accessible, and it doesn't mean working less. There's no stigma around, I used AI to create this.
Working smart.
Exactly. And that's a big part of really feeling that you're planning efficiently and that you're meeting kids where they're at. So you're actually improving their well-being, and at the same time
And our well-being.
Right, so happy teachers make happy kids.
Absolutely.
I think that's such a great way to finish. Happy teachers make happy kids, or happy kids make happy teachers. So I think Chet and Juan Carlos are really talking about, first of all, the power of co-teaching and collaboration. So if you have the opportunity in your institutions to do that and introduce that model, it can be very powerful. They also talked about like using AI tools to help differentiate, right? Different levels and giving scaffolds for different sentence structures and mentor texts. So I thought that was a really interesting way to use AI to be able to differentiate different levels in terms of your content for the students in your class. Okay, so let's have a look at another way. So this is a video here which has no sound, so I'm just going to talk through it. And there's a lot of wonderful educational tools, including Toddle, that have built-in AI, little functionalities to really help us save time. So this one is Padlet, which I know Toddle uses as well. And I just put kindergarten math, and I put the topic of counting. And this is on AI recipes. So Padlet Wall has released a lot of AI recipes that include discussion boards, ideas for class activities. So that's the one that I'm looking at. They have maps of historical events, lots of really great templates. And in a few seconds, you're going to see all of the lesson ideas that the AI recipes has come up with. Here we go. So we've got interactive counting games, art and craft, story and song counting, outdoor counting explorations. And so it really is such a wonderful tool to brainstorm and give us really interactive learning experiences for our students of any grade level. So we could also look at grade 12, look at any discipline area and any topic, and it can give us lots of lesson ideas. And so what does this look like? Well, here is an example of a classroom of different stations and different ideas that can be generated from any large language model. And so we want to focus still on the human elements, the interactivity. And for early years learners, we actually want to ensure that they're still collaborating and that we use the AI tools to give us wonderful ideas. Okay, so we know that AI can also automate really routine tasks such as grading and admin work, which can take up time. And that allows us to focus on more meaningful interactions with students. And that's what Juan Carlos and Chet were really emphasizing. We want to free up our time to focus on what is important, those connections and those discussions with students. And so here is an example of how we can ask a large language model to give students feedback about their writing. So here, this was an AI-powered writing workshop. Grade 3 students used a large language model to generate scenes, enhance descriptions, and receive personalized feedback to strengthen their stories. Now, if you're going to use any AI tools with students that are under 13, I do recommend that you have a station that has a teacher logged in account so that students are not inputting any of their data. But what a wonderful way to get feedback, right? And also, we can use chatbots. We can create custom chatbots to guide thinking and to give qualitative data to our students. So I have a chat bot. I've put the link on the Padlet wall. I think I have like 3 followers that have actually accessed the chat bot, but it will answer questions about inquiry-based learning, designing active experiences, and how to focus lesson planning and unit planning on deep conceptual understanding. And I know that Toddle has just launched something very exciting. It's called Toddle AI Tutors Chatbot. And it basically allows you to create your own chatbot for students to use so that they can get feedback on whatever they're working with. So that's pretty exciting. And perhaps that's going to be in the demo later, Gaia, too, that new
Yes,
release.
absolutely. We want to show teachers how easy it's going to be to, especially for differentiation in
Yes.
the classroom. Yes.
And that's going to save teachers, I think, so much time, because if students can, receive some initial qualitative feedback, that frees up for the teacher to go around and have discussions with individual students while they're getting the feedback. They're not waiting around in class. Okay, so I also wanted to share an example of how we can analyze qualitative data using any large language model. So I try to be quite agnostic when it comes to AI tools, because in different regions, some large language models are available, some are not. I know in India, you can access ChatGPT, so please continue to do that. Go on to ChatGPT and say, I wanted to have some fictitious qualitative data. I didn't really want to use real data, real students' data. So I asked, one of the large language models, come up with some qualitative data from 30 students about their understanding of different concepts on quadratics. And we can ask any large language model to analyze qualitative data in seconds. So when I was doing my postgrad, it took us months to analyze qualitative data. We had special software, we did all this thematic coding, and then now we can actually just analyze any qualitative data really easily in seconds. So I'm just going to play this video. So over here, I've got, can you come up with some fictitious data from 30 students, so that I'm not using real data for this demonstration. And I use DeepSeek. This it talks through all the reasoning and what it's thinking before it actually gives it to you. So then I have 30 students and their qualitative responses about how they understood the different concepts on quadratics. Okay, so then next steps. I said I want to identify themes, categorize the responses. I want to generate insights. Okay, so some of the themes were difficulty with factoring. And actually, I've got it on the next slide. So what can it do for us? Okay, in terms of analyzing qualitative data. So it analyzed those 30 fictitious data points and identified themes. And the themes were difficulty with factoring and solving, confusion about the relationship between coefficients and the shape. There were struggles with interpreting quadratic solutions in real-world context. So they were the main themes in the thematic coding used to identify or using those 30 data points. Then they categorized the responses into broader themes. So there was procedural understanding, conceptual understanding, and attitudes and emotions. And then DeepSeek generated some insights and said, well, many students feel confident in their procedural skills. Students are interested in real-world applications. And it also identified as an insight, there is a need for more visual or contextual explanations to help students connect procedures to concepts. So if you're collecting qualitative data from your students, because we all are very, I think, well rehearsed in collecting quantitative data, but if you're collecting qualitative data, how do we analyze that? And there's so much. So it might be that you ask your students to complete a Google form in terms of their understanding on a particular topic, and then we can use any large language model to analyze that qualitative data. Now, when it comes to prompting, I think I'd like to keep it really simple. We don't need a huge prompt library that's 300 pages long. That's just disappeared. There we go. We don't need a prompt library. I think about communicating with a large language model as an ongoing conversation and use the ideas framework. So the ideas framework is basically from the 5 canons of rhetoric. So I tend to not call developing prompts prompt engineering, because it's not engineering, it's not science and maths. It's really about how well can you communicate with a large language model. And so it's about rhetoric. So the 5 steps are, what do you want to ask? That's inquire. What do you want to design? And what's the style and tone? Keeping it very simple. You actually don't even need to give yourself a persona. You know how sometimes say, oh, I am a, mathematician in this context. You don't even need to say that. Just what do you want to ask? What do you want to design? What's the style and tone? Once you have an output, then you're going to adapt and synthesize that, because no output is perfect. We always need human in the loop. So let's have a look at an example of this ideas framework. Can you come up, so that's the inquire, with different inquiry activities to help students apply their understanding of shapes while fostering curiosity and authenticity? That's the engage, right? That's the tone that we want. And so here are the activities. And notice how the activities are so hands-on, using manipulatives. There's group work. And actually, I put Pedaguchi's head here, but I put it a little bit above. I don't know if you can see that big smile that student has, because he's enjoying the learning process so much. Okay, so here's another example from secondary science. This is Nicole, and I know that she's on the call, so I'm going to invite her to explain this lesson in a moment. Nicole is an associate of mine, a wonderful concept-based curriculum and instruction educator and leader in a school. She said, ChatGPT has saved my life. I never would have thought of all of these creative ideas. And so I'm going to invite Nicole. I've got a visual here. She asked an LMM to create interesting case studies. Nicole, can I invite you to explain, what this lesson was about and how you used that large language model to help you?
Hi, everyone. Am I
Hi.
unmuted? Yeah, great. It's really great to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Yes, so we were looking at microscopes, and basically I wanted the students to develop this deep conceptual understanding of the impact of microscopes on scientific understanding. So essentially how microscopes have allowed scientists to observe things that they can't see with their eyes, and how that's helped them to gain a better understanding of the world. So I wanted them to look at case studies. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to spend hours Googling different ideas. So I just asked ChatGPT to generate, I asked it to generate about 10, and then I chose the 3 I liked. I asked for some Australian examples from different times, so recent ones and long ago ones. And it was good. Saved me a lot of time.
So comprehensive as well, right? Like I love this idea. And then look at the students, how engaged they are. And there's a big smile here on the students' face too. I've got another example from you, Nicole, as well, about using concept attainment. So I'll just explain concept attainment, and then if you don't mind sharing like what the context was. So concept attainment activity is when you show students examples of a concept and non-examples of a concept, because when students see non-examples of a particular concept, it actually helps their comprehension and understanding. So I'll just put it up. So what was the context of this? Because it was examples and non-examples of the concept of evidence. Yeah.
So I'm a science teacher. So we're going to be looking at different theories and laws throughout this unit. So we wanted them to understand this concept of evidence, because we know that scientists need a large amount of evidence to construct a theory or a law, to support a theory or a law. So I wanted to make sure that we had a shared understanding in the class of, what actually is evidence. So I just wanted a bunch of examples and non-examples. I asked it for some kind of general ones, and then some that might connect to the different subjects that they do at school. Yeah, because I thought if they kind of connect to the subjects they do at school, it might help them kind of give it some connection to what they know and understand. So yeah, and it gave me tons of different ones. So I've copied them onto card, printed them, cut them out, and then they can actually just in groups sort them out and look at the difference between them, and create probably a Freya model or something to come up with a definition. Yeah.
That is brilliant. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing as well.
No problem.
So the different examples here from the different subject areas, which I love. And then here is the rest of the examples and non-examples, putting them on cards for students to sort. So we're still promoting that collaboration and teamwork in lessons. But, that would have taken us hours, if not days, to try and come up with these different examples, right? So you can see, English, science, history, maths, health and physical education, drama.
I think it would be so cool for those of us in the audience who teach these subjects, to be like, is that an example I would allow in?
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Would it pass the vibe check in my classroom?
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you. And so now, what do I have next? I have David, who is going to share how he uses AI to really streamline his workflow. So let's hear from David. I think it's great to see examples from classrooms and teachers who are actually using AI tools. So here's David.
Okay, so when it comes to the issue of educator workflow and creativity, I find that, time is finite, and as teachers, there's always more that we want to do for our students, but never really seem to have the time, enough time to accomplish it all. And this is where AI comes in for me. Quite recently, I have been using AI to create surveys, gather and analyze student feedback. And, prior to this, creating a survey, digging through the responses, identifying trends, that took hours, time I did not have. But with AI, I can now quickly generate surveys and gather meaningful data. I can use these AI tools to analyze the responses, and it helps me to, distill the key ideas in minutes, and, allows me to adapt to my teaching strategies and, resources based on what my students need, without getting lost in the data. Another area where AI has transformed my workflow is, when it comes to creating and mostly adapting my resources for my students. Understanding that all my students are in different places and have diverse abilities, AI helps me to, have the flexibility to customize my resources on the fly. And so whether it's, creating differentiated worksheets or, adjusting a lesson plan to meet the diverse needs of my students, AI allows me to do all of these things that I've really always wanted to do but did not have the time for. And so, in my opinion, it's not about replacing the human element. It's about freeing up time to focus on what really matters, which is connecting with my students and enhancing their learning experience. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if there's one takeaway that we would like you to have from this session is really that AI tools can save us time and free us up so that we can focus on student relationships and student learning and enhancing learning. Okay, so I think I've got one more idea. This is from Julia Helverson, another scientist. Gosh, I seem to have so many science examples. And she used this particular tool and she said, solar and lunar eclipses. She wanted to generate a science lesson, explain what causes them, why they don't occur every month, and why the moon turns red during a lunar eclipse, include the vocabulary terms umbra and penumbra. And then you can actually choose the grade level and the language. And this is on CuriePod. So this is a tool that's free for all educators. So let's have a look at the lesson that she generated. I'm going to talk over this. There's no sound. So it generated this lovely lesson. And what I think I like about CuriePod is that it is interactive. You see, it says, what does this make you think or wonder? It's not delivering an hour-long lecture. You can see it says, during an ellipse, which alignment occurs? There's a lot of interactivity. It says, draw the umbra and the penumbra. So we actually did this lesson last week in Spain. There's a think, pair, and share. So lots of ideas of how we can actually make our lessons more interactive, honoring the students that are in front of them, in front of us, and the learning that is happening. Show what you know. So lots of different ideas. What's the main difference between solar and lunar eclipses? So lots of really good questions that develop critical thinking. And I thought that was a wonderful example. Thank you, Julia, for sharing that. And then this was the last page. I loved this. I'll give you a chance to read this. I thought that was just really, really cute. How confident do you feel explaining eclipses and then using that topic, to really make it really engaging and funny? So I thought that was really cute. So try that one if you haven't tried that one before. So what have I kind of discussed broadly? Okay, how might we use AI tools to support our well-being? I've broadly discussed chatbots for student feedback, and Toddle has their own chatbot that you can create and develop that will give student feedback from their platform. Generate wonderful lesson ideas and also resources that can cater to all of the different students in your classrooms of different backgrounds, different confidence levels, and brainstorm ideas that would normally take you days to arrive at. Focus on the pedagogy. You all know who pedagogy is now. So we want to focus on the pedagogy and keeping the learners at the center of the learning cycle. And we can also use AI tools for those low order admin tasks such as emails. And I know that the speakers later will be talking a little bit about using AI tools for admin, but for emails, I think for analyzing qualitative data that you collect regularly from your students in terms of visible thinking routines, in terms of, their understanding of different topics. So they're the kind of general things that we discussed, but I'm going to finish off with a few things. The first thing is the importance of a digital detox. So a little bit ironic here, but I think that we should be encouraging ourselves and our students to have a digital detox every so often. And some schools have, even you've probably seen internationally, have incorporated phone-free zones. And I think that needs to be a measured and intentional approach. So I'm not saying that's one way and that's the only way, but to be really intentional about when we're going to use our phones and when to have a digital detox. So for example, when we're connecting with family, when we're in nature, when we're dining together and sharing meals, or if we're doing a yoga class or in a wellness center, or if we are in a learning space where we can probably still use a computer perhaps at sometimes, but sometimes we want to actually promote the inhuman interactions by developing communication and collaboration skills. So the importance of a digital detox. And in my travels, I do gift everybody with this little digital detox bag. So if I get to meet you in person in the future, I'd be delighted to gift you with one of these. Your phone fits into it and it just helps to remind us the importance of a digital detox. So second last thing, please remember SPICE, those 5 pillars of well-being. And I will put the visual on the Padlet wall as a reminder. And always keep the human in the loop with everything that we do. That's so important. Now, let's come back now to that person that you wrote down at the beginning of our time, that intention that we set. What is one action you'll take for them? Because I think as teachers, we, innately love to help other people. But at the same time, I want to emphasize, what is one action you will take for yourself as well? Because self-care is not selfish. So please pop it in the chat box. What's one action you'll take for that person that you wrote down? And what is one action that you'll take for yourself?